man. I do what I do.
We're living through a time of reckoning. Policies by Donald Trump and the Republican Party are spotlighting structural racism, rewrites of history, attacks on diversity initiatives. And many in the Black community are saying we are resting, we're healing. We're not getting caught up in the political circus right now. And this is exactly why today's conversation is critical, because when this chapter passes, when we eventually return to the work we've been doing for 400 plus years, we can't go back to the old normal. No, we can't go back to the place where Black men and Black women are at war, where our differences are exploited by our open enemy, and where we forget that our relationship to one another set the tone for our sons, our daughters, our unions, our workplaces, and our culture at large. Right now is part of the healing. One of the conversations that must be had, even if it's uncomfortable, is the relationship that Black men and Black women have with their mothers. It matters because how a Black man feels about his mother shapes how he engages with Black women in every arena. And whether she's his wife, his daughter, his coworker, or just another sister in the street, if he doesn't have peace with his mother, how can he have peace with this woman who mirrors her attributes? It's time to do the work, and it's time to go there. And so I want to deal with something right now, and because I already know what's coming. Some of you will hear what I've said today, and instead of reflecting, you'll react. You'll get angry, defensive, maybe even lash out. You call me names. You'll say, Dennis Spurling must hate Black women. You'll say, these men are damaged. Or what about the fathers? Can I get an amen on that? See, we're going to get something straight. See, this isn't about hating mothers. This is about telling the truth that has been silenced for generations. Can I get an amen? See, for decades, the Black community has built an untouchable mythology around the Black mother. She's the one person you're never allowed to criticize her, no matter what she does. She can abandon her children. She can lie to them, emotionally abuse them. She can weaponize religion, guilt, or femininity against them. And society still says, don't you dare talk about your mama like that. She's become the sacred cow of the Black community, worshiped, protected, beyond reproach. But here's the problem. Shout out to Hoss Martin, look, when you can't be corrected, then you can't be improved. And if no one holds her accountable, then the damage never stops. When over 60,000 men, especially Black men, are publicly saying they've cut their mothers off, that's not a coincidence. That's a crisis. You can't dismiss that, that many testimonies as bitterness or misogyny. These are grown men who suffered in silence for years, and finally they're telling their stories. And if your first instinct is to attack them instead of listening to them, then that says more about your ego than their pain. Now, for those of you all who will say, well, what about the fathers? I'll say this once, and I'm going to say it clearly. If the father wasn't there, how can you blame an absent man for the actions of a present woman? So you can't project your failures or your emotional instability or your cruelty on someone who wasn't in the home. If he was gone, you were the parent who stayed. You were the one raising the child. You were the one shaping his reality, molding his view of love or respect or womanhood. And if the son grew up broken or confused or angry or detached, you had influence over that outcome because you were there. And if the father was there, then this still isn't about him. We've studied father wounds for generations. Every therapist, every psychologist, every talk show has dissected daddy issues to death. We've written books about them. We built careers off them, and we've reshaped family law around it. But what we have not done, especially in the Black community, is look at the other side of that wound. The truth is, this conversation isn't unique to us. White men talk about their mothers' failings in therapy. Asian men do it. Latino men do it. The difference is that when they speak up, they're heard. When Black men do it, they're demonized. So understand this. We're not here to shame all Black mothers, okay? We're not here to shame any Black mothers. We're here to stop pretending that motherhood automatically equals moral perfection, because the data, the testimonies, and the lived experiences of thousands of sons prove otherwise. If you are a mother listening to this and your first reaction is to get angry, I want you to pause. And I want you to ask yourself why. If you feel attacked, maybe it's because there's something inside you that recognizes the truth you've never faced. This is your moment to reflect, not to deflect. And those who still say, well, you should never talk about your mother, I say this: silence is what allowed the pain to spread. Silence is what kept generations of boys from healing. Silence is what turned wounded sons into detached fathers. The cycle ends when we stop worshiping people simply because they gave birth and start judging them by how they raised the children they brought into this world. This message isn't meant to destroy the image of the Black mother. It's meant to humanize her, okay? It's meant to hold her to the same standard of accountability that everyone else faces, because love without accountability isn't love. It is enablement. And that's why this conversation is necessary. Not because we hate our mothers, but because we love the truth. Now, let me make something clear, okay? I've had this conversation on my channel on numerous occasions. Okay, this is not just a day I just decided to wake up and talk about it. This is a continuation of a discussion we've been having on this channel for years. Back in December 16, 2023, I re-aired a broadcast that I originally did 2 years earlier in 2021 entitled "Black Men Secretly Don't Like Their Mothers." You can still find that discussion on my YouTube. And that broadcast struck a nerve then, and it's still resonating today, because at the end of that program, I hosted a panel of Black men who courageously sat down and explained in raw, unfiltered honesty that the reasons they did not like their mothers was for things that we all understood to be true but never addressed. They talked about neglect. They talked about manipulation. They talked about emotional abuse. They talked about confusion growing up in homes where love came with control or contradiction. What made that discussion powerful wasn't the pain alone, it was the pattern. See, these weren't isolated stories. These were shared experiences, and the reaction from viewers, especially women, showed me something important. That as much as this topic hurts, it needs to be confronted, because until we name the truth, we can't heal from it.